Hi, I'm Jason Inman.
And I'm Ashley Victoria Robinson. This is Grey Wind.
And we're here to recap and review for you Game of Thrones Season 7, Episode 3, The Queen's Justice. And if you haven't seen tonight's episode, you might want to come back later because there will be plenty of spoilers. The episode begins with Jon and Davos reach the beach to find Jon's Season 1 travel companion, Tyrion. And as they walk up to the castle, a dragon dive bombs Jon. On a nearby cliff, Melisandre and Varys have a chat by the cliff where we reveal that Melisandre doesn't want to meet Jon Snow again. Okay, I gotta say that this is one of those moments that we are going towards the finale of Game of Thrones that I am so excited about because Tyrion and Jon haven't been in the same room since Season 1 of the show. Since Season 1, Episode 3 or 2, I believe. It's been a long time, and it was nice to see them have the familiarity with each other, as I mispronounced that word. But also, we got a really huge bomb with Melisandre being like, oh, I gotta leave, but I'm gonna come back because I have to die here. And so will you, Varys. I thought this opening was amazing.
It was a really, really great opening. I thought it was interesting, the Melisandre line, because really it's how much stock do you put in her prophecy?
Yes.
Which I'm going to comment on when we watched it, and you said, well, it's maybe not that the prophecy's wrong, but her interpretation of it is wrong. And we get from her finally the confirmation of the thing that we all knew, that Jon and Dany are ice and fire.
She called them ice and fire. Or she says like it's a medium of ice and fire.
I brought together ice and fire or something like that,
Yeah, it was really good. Yeah, so she confirms the whole title of the Song of Ice and Fire. I thought it was really, again, for an opening scene of an episode, I was like, they're already knocking it out of the park.
Also, Peter Dinklage is such a good actor that he makes Kit Harington good for the entire episode. It was amazing.
Jon reaches the throne room, and we finally get a moment that we've been waiting 7 seasons to witness. Daenerys meeting Jon Snow. She wants him to bend the knee, but then Jon tries to mansplain White Walkers to her. And suddenly, she wants nothing to do with it, even though Davos is really, really, really trying to confirm that Jon Snow came back from the dead. All right, again, another episode, or another scene, excuse me, of these two characters. We've been talking about these two for a long time. We're like, oh, what's gonna happen when Jon Snow and Daenerys meet? And to be honest with you, I almost think this might be Daenerys' best scene of the entire series.
Yes, I thought they were great together. This whole scene, with the exception of the fact that Jon kept
wobbling.
Going like,
he kept wobbling.
I wrote all in caps on my notes, stand still, Jon, and it would have been so much better. She really comes across for the first time, in my opinion, as queenly, as regal, as somebody who is capable of leading people instead of the whiny, entitled person. I like, too, the hypocrisy between her saying, I'm not my father, I'm not crazy, please forgive me and take me at my word.
But
I expect you to bend the knee because, you know, your ancestor, who you don't even have his same house name, but you have to bend the knee to me. I think the conflict between these two characters was really great throughout this scene.
I thought it was great too because, again, they started doing the thing that everybody in Westeros does. They're posturing power. They're like, I'm more powerful. No, I'm more powerful. Going through all this stuff. And then I thought Daenerys was the first to take a step back and be like, I apologize. I'm sorry. And then, but to be honest with you, I almost thought that Jon Snow was more chill. Now, I think that the reason why he comes off more chill in this episode, or especially this scene, is because we know about the White Walkers, but Dany doesn't.
But can you imagine if someone's trying to explain that to you and you've never even been to Westeros?
And we get a scene about that later on, too.
Oh, yeah, of course you would not. I don't think she's out of line in not believing him and not taking him at his word. I also really quickly want to say how great I thought Davos was in this scene.
Yeah.
I know he's a character that you really, really like.
I do.
But Missandei gives this really long explanation of Dany and her titles, and he's like, this is Jon Snow. He's the king of the north.
But he also almost blurted out the thing that I think is going to change this whole power dynamic.
That Jon died.
That Jon died and came back to life. I think that is going to change everything. I really think that when Dany finds that out, Dany is going to respect that like her coming out of the fire. And I think that's going to change her whole opinion of Jon Snow.
I also do want to say, per rumors and previous predictions that we've had, the dragon that dive bombs him at the beginning is Drogon, the black dragon, who everyone thinks Jon is going to have a direct tie to.
Okay.
Whether or not that was just an aesthetic choice, whether or not that's not something that paid off, I thought that was interesting, that he,
could
the
pay off later on.
Dragon, is the one who gets the closest to Jon.
Dragon spoilers. Euron parades his prisoners Yara, Ilaria, and her one surviving sand snake through the streets of King's Landing, and Cersei agrees to marry Euron when the war is won. Cersei doesn't immediately torture Ilaria. No, she says that she's just going to kill her daughter and make her watch. Then suddenly Cersei goes through Jaime's room, and they need some clean sheets, as the Iron Bank shows up wanting all of Cersei's money. Back at Dragonstone, Jon takes a nice southern weather chat with Tyrion, who says, "What do you want, man? What do you want?" And then suddenly Tyrion reports to Daenerys that Jon wants dragonglass. Okay, now I thought there was a really fun, neat scene in this. I mean, not really that fun what they were talking about, but Euron and Jaime's sort of jealousy over who gets to bone Cersei.
Yeah.
Especially like being quiet, and Euron was like looking for tips.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, Euron, you're a real piece of crap.
Oh, I'm sorry, I don't know his name, but the actor who's playing Euron is
great. He's great.
Chewing the scenery, complete psychopath, and I'm really enjoying as well Lena Headey this season.
She's amazing.
She's also a complete psychopath, and her just complete disregard for anything.
Can I pose a question to you?
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt you. I apologize. I thought from this episode, and I'd love to hear your opinion on this. Yeah, she was villainous, psychopathic.
Yeah.
Is she the true villain of the show? What do you think? Cersei.
Is she the true villain of the show?
Right? Because we thought it was Joffrey and all those people, but now it's Cersei.
I think Robert is the true villain of Game of Thrones.
Robert Baratheon?
Yes, because Robert Baratheon's complete terrible reign as king is what launches all of this in the first place.
Wow, okay, interesting. But because he brings Cersei on.
Yeah, I think if we're going to break it down, I think it actually goes all the way back to Robert, who is
But in terms of the show right now.
Sure, yeah. I mean, she's the clearest villain as far as what we have. I like that her dresses are basically like armored on the shoulders. Like she looks like she could just elbow someone and kill them. And it's funny because in the scene where she's in the dungeon torturing Ilaria and her daughter, I was like, man, her lipstick is like really pink. It is like too pink.
Because it was poison
and it is like wildly inconsistent with the way it's been done the entire rest of the series. And then the reveal that it's the same poison that was used to kill Myrcella, I thought was a really strong choice, and I actually really, really appreciated that idea.
Also another strong choice. We get another strong Tyrion and Jon scene. And who would have thought that all of their scenes from pissing off the wall and stuff like that would have meant so much, but they really have such an impact here.
Give Peter Dinklage every award. He's so good. And his idea that he plants here and that we see pay off a little bit later, that you have to compromise, that we're not going to win and we're not going to defeat Cersei and take back the Seven Kingdoms by butting heads, is really something that we should all take into account in all of our dealings with other people throughout the rest of our lives.
Sure. Jon and Daenerys have a chat on their own, and then Daenerys agrees to provide resources and men to mine the dragonglass and forge weapons from it. Sansa's walking around Winterfell like a boss, telling everybody how to run the kingdom, when suddenly Bran Stark returns, and they have a talk about Bran being the three-eyed raven right by the amazing god tree. We then cut to the Citadel with the Archmaester and Sam look at all the grayscale cut off of Jorah, and we find out that Jorah is cured. The Archmaester isn't too happy about it, but he congratulates Sam and then gives him a bunch of documents to transcribe. All right. I didn't think it would work. The grayscale would be cured immediately, but it was sort of a punishment for Sam. But I like that the Archmaester, Jim Broadbent, by the way, I love Jim Broadbent. He's just great guy. Great actor as well. I like that he gives him the option of transcription because, you know, Sam was just pouring crap out of pots.
Oh, yeah. It's a punishment, and he's definitely being chided.
But it's a step up.
It's definitely a step up from where he was. I also, backpedaling to the Sansa scene a little bit, I like that Peter Baelish gives good advice for, like, the first time in the entire show. Like, he seems to be taking his role as... He really wants to be Sansa's hand/husband, and he says, play out everything in your imagination. Imagine all the good, all the bad, and nothing will ever startle you. Nothing will ever come up on you. Yeah, it's a great piece of advice, which is amazing coming from this character. I also think that Bran does a terrible job explaining what the three-eyed raven is.
I'm the three-eyed raven.
Yeah, he really seems kind of like drunk Paul McCartney in this scene, and he's just like, it's complicated. And then he gives like a crappy explanation, and Sansa's like, that doesn't make any sense. And he's like, well, I said it was complicated.
I told you it wouldn't make sense, Sansa.
And then he proceeds to, like, tell her about the creepy rape scene that she led. That, you know, she lived.
I saw it, Sansa.
I just thought it was a really weird scene, and I guess that's the point of Bran now, and he's this weirdo who I don't like anymore. But I don't know. That scene was the only one that kind of knocks me in this episode.
I was going to say, though, but it was a nice... I got a little choked up seeing the Stark children meet each other.
The reunion,
it was really nice.
I thought was really nice on her part. I know he's supposed to have ascended to this new thing, but like he didn't even like hug her. I actually thought it was I thought it was sadder than it was happy, and I expected it to be a happier moment, just personally.
Just wait till Arya comes.
I'm dying for it!
Next episode. The Unsullied approach Castle Rock, and they take Tyrion's secret sex tunnel to get inside and beat the entire kingdom. Although they soon find out that Jaime and a massive army of Lannisters are sieging the Tyrell's home, which they beat in seconds. Jaime then enters Olenna's room and speaks to her and gives her a poison to let her die peacefully, when then she reveals that she was the one who poisoned Joffrey in season 4. And that's where we get the ultimate mic drop in the episode and the ultimate confirmation. It's interesting. We got two major battle scenes in this episode, and it was interesting how they were edited. I thought it was very interesting choices, and also helped save the production. That the first one was over a voiceover of Tyrion telling you how it should go, and the reveal of the secret tunnel, which I thought was a nice thing.
I can't believe that you said secret sex tunnel.
It's a secret sex tunnel.
I mean, you're right, but I can't believe that you actually said. That's also is preceded by the scene where Daenerys agrees to give the dragon glass to Jon.
Yeah, we talked about that a ways back.
But I was like, that was cool.
But let's talk about, I want to go back to the editing.
Yeah.
Again, it was told in almost montage, whereas the Lannisters going after House Tyrell was like, we see the armies approach, battle's over, and Jaime's won it.
Yeah.
And you just see bodies. I thought it was interesting how it was like, okay, well, this is the secret plan battle, and this is the one where there's no contest.
But they're also both battles that the winning army knows they're going to win from the beginning. They know the advantage that they have. And both at the end, like when Grey Worm stands up at Casterly Rock and he sees the Greyjoy fleet, that's when he realizes they're screwed and that they've been played.
They've been
when
trapped.
Jaime talks to Olenna, that's when he realizes that he still loses. Because even though
she wins the scene.
She wins her own death scene. Even though we all know that it was Olenna, there's heavy implications for that. We know that she at least masterminded.
It's nice to get confirmation, though.
Having the confirmation of it and the way she delivers it. And, like, Olenna Tyrell is one of my heroes on the show.
She's a great actress.
So badass. And to the death. She is still destroying the hearts of men across Westeros, and it was awesome.
Cool, let's move straight into the rating of this episode, The Queen's Justice, based on a scale of 1 to 5 direwolf heads. Ashley, what would you give this episode?
I think this was an amazing episode. We got a lot of great acting, we got a lot of really important scenes. Everybody's still a speedster. For a middle of the season episode, I don't know if you can get a more perfect episode than this, so I'm gonna give it 5 out of 5 direwolf heads. I thought this was excellent Game of Thronesing. How about you? What are you going to rate Queen's Justice?
This is the episode that proved to me that we are on a freight train to the final episode, and that the break between this season and next season is going to be brutal. They are going to leave us on such a I'm telling you, I can see it. They're going to leave us on such a massive cliffhanger, and we're gonna all die. This is very similar. This is very similar, I think, to what the Breaking Bad did its final season. It left us on such a massive cliffhanger, and we're like, oh my god, I need those episodes now. This is gonna do the same thing. 5 out of 5 direwolf heads. I thought we had battles, we had actions, and we had scenes that we have been waiting for years, and they are paying off. And so far, signs are pointing to, yes, that Game of Thrones, it looks like, is going to completely stick its landing in terms of the final episode.
Yeah.
So I'm really, really excited. Now let's talk about our predictions for next week's episode and the season beyond. As always, we haven't seen the trailer for next week's episode, but we're going to watch it and react to it and review it, and you can go check out that card right up there. Ashley, what are your predictions for the future of Game of Thrones based on this episode?
You talked about it a little bit in our main episode. I think that we are definitely, per the fact that everybody moves at super speed now, having Arya return to Winterfell.
Next
episode. I think Bran is going to know that it's happened. I think Bran is going to confront her about all the terrible murdery things that she's done, because Bran had the scene with Sansa where he wasn't confronting her, but he was just making it known that he understood what she had been through.
He'd seen everything.
Yeah, and I think because Sansa really hasn't done anything morally questionable, but Arya certainly has, we're going to get a really interesting...
Besides punishing Ramsay.
Well, that's not morally questionable.
Sure.
He deserved it.
Well, not in the Game of Thrones world. Sure.
No, absolutely. He deserved to be eaten by all of the dogs.
Yeah.
Spoiler, I guess. I think we're going to have a really interesting scene, probably by the Godswood tree, between the two younger Stark children, and I'll be interested to see how that plays out. I'm just dying for all the Starks to get back together.
I think he might disown her.
Do you really?
I do. I really do.
I secretly hope, but I don't think it's going to happen, that Sansa just, like, makes Arya her private assassin. And that Arya winds up being the person who kills Peter Baelish by the end of the series.
Oh, I can see that happening.
Yeah, because he's going to go too far. Because he has every single time, especially with Sansa. So I want more Arya is basically what it boils down to.
It's a good pick.
What is your prediction for next week's or the future of
I actually think, touch on yours a little bit, I actually think Sansa's going to kill Littlefinger eventually.
Even better.
He'll go too far and she'll stab him right face to face.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
Confirming her transformation basically into Cersei.
Yeah.
No, I actually think my prediction is that Bran is Godswood? I'm sorry, I mispronounced it in the episode. Godswood?
I can't remember if it's Godswood or God's
that is now going to be his base of operations.
Yeah.
And I think he's going to stay in Winterfell, and he's going to be connected to that tree. I think that is going to be a permanent fixture of Winterfell now. I think somehow he is going to send a message to Jon, or something is going to happen where Jon's like, I got to get back to Winterfell now.
Maybe he'll warg into Drogon and just carry Jon to Winterfell.
Well, that is a possibility. I think Daenerys will take Jon to Winterfell on a dragon this season.
All the Stark children back together, yay!
Yep. I think when Jon goes back to Winterfell, it will be on a dragon.
Oh, yeah.
Confirming their alliance, because something will happen, and I think it's going to have something to do with Bran. I think Bran is going to be the, send out the call.
Yeah.
And whether that's like they're going out into battle, and then suddenly Drogon just turns, and Daenerys is like, what?
Yeah. Well, and we alluded in this episode, Daenerys wants to take the dragons.
Yeah.
And her advisors, her queen's council are like, you cannot take the... So you know she's going to get on the dragon, and you know Jon's going to go with her.
I also think that we are going to see Jorah Mormont. This is a little double prediction.
I love him.
I think Jorah Mormont's going to become one of Jon Snow's best men.
I would love that.
To flip the dynamic of his dad being in charge of him.
Mr. J.R. Mormont.
Yes, I think he's going to come back to Daenerys, and he's going to be like, what do you want me to do, Khaleesi? And Khaleesi's like, the best thing you can do is go help Jon Snow.
Yeah.
And it'll be the two of them.
And it'll be the
swords and swords. Yeah. That's what I think is going to happen.
I would love that.
So there you go.
Great.
So head on down to the comments and tell us which theory you think is correct. And while you're down there, hit subscribe.
And why not watch our trailer reaction for next week's episode? And for more exclusive geeky content, go to patreon.com/Jawiin.
The Dire Wolves wish you well, my friends. We'll see you next week.